Hello, guys, and welcome to this channel, The Wisdom Therapist, where we talk about, first of all, inner freedom, and then we continue to get outer freedom. In this video, we're going to explore some of the best ideas about how to live and lead an unconventional life. And let's begin. So, most people are born into a script: school, job, mortgage, retirement, and then we go. So, is it a good way to lead our lives? No. It's a neat little timeline society gives you, and if you follow it, you will be called normal. But the truth, the reality, normal isn't living, it's just surviving. I know, because I followed the script. I started as a lawyer, I climbed into politics, even touched the very top of state power. I later became a psychotherapist. I walked into the mystical arena, the philosophical arena, and finally into the spiritual arena. And I know and I feel that everything comes from within. It all starts from the inner. That's why it's called inner freedom. And you know what? At every stage, I felt a quiet whisper. This isn't it. There has to be more. That whisper is why I'm here today. To talk about what it means to live a truly unconventional life. Not the life you were handed, but the life that you choose. And instead of giving you cliches, I want to take you on a journey through dirty doors, dirty worlds, where people across the globe are already living differently. The first world is the road. Imagine this: you sell half or all of your belongings, buy a beat-up van, and turn it into a tiny mobile home. Every day, your backyard changes. One morning it's the cliffs of Portugal, the next it's a forest in Slovenia, a week later it's the Moroccan desert. That's the life of the van dwellers. No mortgage, no rent, no fixed address. Just movement, freedom, and the courage to live light. From there, we step into another world, the realm of minimalism. These are people who realize that possessions don't make you free, they make you heavy. Some minimalists live with fewer than 200 objects in their entire life. Everything they own could fit into a single backpack. Sounds extreme? Maybe. But here's the twist. When you cut down on things, you suddenly make room for experiences. And that's what we are here for. For many people, minimalism is not about denial, it's about expansion, expanding time, energy, clarity. Think about all the time that you could save by not having so many things, having to wash them, having to sort them, having to have them, arranged, etc., etc., etc. Now, the next door takes us online into the life of the digital nomad. Imagine your office is a laptop, your desk is a cafe in Bali, and your colleagues are scattered across every time zone. Digital nomads build a lifestyle where freedom of location equals freedom of life. They chase the sun, culture, adventure, while making money from anywhere with a Wi-Fi. Some code, some coach, some write, but all of them broke away from the old prison of commute into a cubicle. Which, by the way, now they want to reinstate that as the normal, which is, I don't know, absurd in my opinion, but yeah. And then another shift. What if you didn't just unplug from your job, but from the entire system? That's the off-grid life. Picture a cabin in the woods powered by a solar panel, a garden that grows your dinner, rainwater collected from showers, no bills, no landlords, no bosses. Off-grid living isn't easy. It's raw, real, sometimes brutally hard. But it's freedom in its purest form. The ability to sustain yourself fully without anyone having to give you permission. So each of these lives, the van dwellers, the minimalists, the digital nomads, the off-grid builders, show us the same truth. There is no one way to live, but there are thousands ways to live free. Now, let's walk through another door, the tiny house. At first glance, it's just a box on wheels, 20, maybe 30 square meters. A kitchen the size of your arm span, a bed tucked into a loft, and windows opening out of, to the forest, lakes, or city streets. But here's the paradox. In shrinking their homes, people expand their lives. Because we don't need that much. No more 30-year mortgage. No more giant empty rooms filled with furniture bought only to impress others. A tiny house is not about less space, it's about more freedom. And I think that we, as a society, culture, should do more regarding this, having more of those options open to us, and not just the expensive things, but it should be like made as a commodity, it's a basic need, so it shouldn't be that expensive as it is now. So some people take it even further. They leave not just the house behind, but the entire system. As we said, off-grid, self-sufficient. Imagine waking up in a cabin you built with your own hands. You see that on YouTube, on many channels. I love that. The lights run from solar panels. Breakfast comes from the tomatoes you picked that morning. Your water flows from a rain you collected. So yeah, I know it's idealistic, but you're not waiting for a paycheck to keep the lights on. You are the paycheck. You are the system. And in that independence, there's a raw joy most people never taste. But not everyone wants solitude. Some choose the path of the eco-village. International communities build on trust, cooperation, and shared vision. Here, 20, maybe 100 people live together, not because they must, but because they chose to. And that's the essence, having the right to choose. They share gardens, workshops, kitchens. They teach each other's children. They dance under the stars. It's messy sometimes, conflict happens, but eco-villages remind us that freedom doesn't always mean isolation. Sometimes it means belonging to a tribe of your own design. And I know many people that have chosen that way of life. For example, a friend of mine moved to the Tenerifes and she's actually living in a village. She's 43 and she left everything here in this country and moved there, into eco village. And then there are the builders, the ones who can't sit still in apartments or suburbs, who see wood, metal, and stone not as raw material but as possibility. They build cabins in the forest, boats to sail the oceans, tree houses that float in the canopy. Do-it-yourself living isn't just about saving money. It's about reclaiming your power, your power as a creator, creating with your hands. When you build the walls around you, when your shelter comes from your own sweat and creativity, something inside you shifts. You stop seeing yourself as a consumer and you begin to start seeing yourself as the creator of your life. And I love that. I love this idea. So, no, now step with me into another kind of freedom, one that isn't about walls at all. The life of the slow traveler. Instead of racing through 10 countries in 10 days, slow travelers settle. They spent 3 months in Lisbon, half a year in Thailand, a season in Mexico, and I love that idea. I really would like to do that. They learn local rhythms, pick up new languages, fall in love with neighborhood cafes. To them, travel isn't about escape. It's about immersion, about discovering that every culture carries a hidden mirror, showing up parts of ourselves we never knew. So, here in this segment, we have When Life, tiny houses, eco villages, do it yourself build, slow travel. They are all different doors, but they open into the same landscape. A life that doesn't bow to convention. A life that says freedom is worth designing, even if the world calls you crazy. So, let's go to the next segment. And moving forward, there are some people who don't seek freedom on the road, or in a house, or even in possessions. They seek it in the soul. The first are the pilgrims. For them, life becomes a path walked step by step, day by day. Think of the Camino de Santiago in Spain. Hundreds of kilometers walked not for tourism, but for your own transformation. A pilgrim's possessions fit into one backpack. Each step strips away another layer of ego, another illusion. They start as travelers and they end as seekers. And actually, I knew a guy here near me. I met him. His wife cheated on him, betrayed him, and left him, and took his kids, and he didn't know what to do. And he just started walking. So he went here from Slovenia, and he went all through Italy to France, and then to Spain. And so he did that all on road. So it was a nice, interesting chat. Now, if you truly want something very unconventional, then there is the hermits. They vanish from cities, from society, from the noise. Some retreat into mountain cabins, others into deserts, some into monasteries where silence is the only language. To the outside world, they look like outcasts, but in truth, in reality, they are listeners. Listeners of their own soul, listeners of the whispers that modern life drowns out. A hermit's life teaches us this: solitude isn't emptiness, it's true fullness, when you can finally hear yourself. Others take the mystical path, the seekers who wander across India, Nepal, South America. They live in ashrams, study yoga, meditate in caves, sit with shamans in the jungle. They're not escaping the world, but they are learning to see beneath it. To them, freedom means more than mobility. It means transcendence. Freedom from fear, freedom from craving, from the tyranny of thought. And then we meet the healers. They roam from retreat to retreat, offering touch, herbs, or ancient medicines. A Reiki practitioner who trades healing for food and shelter. A shaman guiding ayahuasca journeys deep into the Amazon. A massage therapist traveling from festival to festival. Their life is not about climbing ladders, it's about lifting burdens. Freedom for them is the ability to heal without chains, without institutions, without anyone telling them this is the proper way. No, they create the way themselves. And talking about the ways, finally we have the philosophers. Philosophia, it's the love of wisdom. That's a philosopher, a true lover of wisdom. That's why I'm the wisdom therapist, because I love wisdom. So some philosophers walk city streets, some sleep in barrels like Diogenes, some fill notebooks with ideas instead of bank accounts. They don't play the game of status. They reject titles, prestige, even comfort, just to live in the truth. Diogenes once told Alexander the Great, the most powerful man on earth, step out of my sunlight. That is the philosopher's path, a freedom so complete, even kings cannot buy it. So here you have pilgrims, hermits, seekers, healers, and philosophers. These people remind us that the deepest unconventional life isn't measured in miles or possessions. It's measured in how close you live to your own truth. Because in the end, the wildest journey is not across the world, but it is within yourself. Because I always say everything starts from within. Then, we have some people that don't search for freedom in silence or in solitude. They search for it in expression. For them, life itself becomes a canvas. The first are the bohemians. You will find them in crumbling apartments in Paris, in lofts in Berlin, in hidden cafes in Mexico City. They live cheaply, sometimes on the edge of poverty, but they are rich in poetry, music, painting, laughter. Bohemians refuse to let money dictate their worth. And I think that we all should take this approach. Don't let money dictate our worth. They measure wealth in inspiration, not in bank accounts. Their gift to us is simple. Beauty doesn't need permission. Next are the street performers, the buskers, the guitar player in Barcelona who turns plazas into concerts. Oh my god, I love that. The fire dancer in Bali who lights up the night. Oh my god. The mime in New York who makes children laugh without a single word. They survive on coins tossed into hats. Yet, those coins carry something more powerful than a salary. It carries freedom. Every street is their stage. Every passerby is their audience. And in that raw exchange, art for survival, there's a purity most artists lose. Then you have the writers on the road. Think of Jack Kerouac scribbling on the road across America, or modern digital nomad authors tapping novels in cafes in Lisbon or Chiang Mai. They wander not just for scenery, but for stories. They capture the pulse of places, the humanity of strangers, the soul of a journey. And in doing so, they show us that words can be wings. Yeah, words can truly be wings. Of course, the stage has many forms. Some choose to build not just art, but empires of creation. The YouTuber who turns a passion into a livelihood. I would love that. The podcaster who builds a community across continents. The independent artist who lives from Patreon instead of a corporate paycheck. By the way, I do have Patreon. They are the creative entrepreneurs. They prove that in the 21st century, art no longer has to starve. It can thrive. It can feed you. It can set you free. So why not start? And then there are the dancers. To them, the body is the instrument. The dance floor is the temple. They travel from festival to festival. Salsa in Spain, bachata in Dominican Republic, kizomba in Angola. They don't just move to music, they dissolve into it. They create freedom not in words, but in rhythm, in sensuality, in fire. To watch them is to remember. Life is not just to be thought about, it is to be danced. So, bohemians, buskers, writers, creators, dancers, these are the artists of life. They remind us that freedom doesn't always mean escaping work. Sometimes it means turning your work into play. It means shaping a life where every day is an act of creation. And that's beautiful. Okay, so let's continue. New day, continuing the video. Some lives of freedom are gentle, filled with art, music, silence, but others are forged in fire. Some choose a path where freedom comes only through discipline, struggle, and courage. These are the warriors of freedom. The first are the martial artists. For them, every day is repetition, kicks, strikes, forms, meditation. They may live in a dojo, a monastery, a dusty gym where the floorboards crack with history. But make no mistake, this is not just about fighting, it's about mastery. Mastery of the body and mastery of the mind. A martial artist's life is unconventional because it rejects the chaos of the world in favor of inner order. And in that order, they find a strange kind of freedom. Then you have the extreme sports nomads, surfers who chase waves across oceans, climbers who live in vans at the base of cliffs, snowboarders who migrate with the seasons. They risk their bodies for the rush, for the beauty, for the transcendence of being fully alive in a single, fleeting moment. To most, it looks reckless. To them, it is worship. Worship of freedom, worship of nature, worship of life itself. Others live as seasonal adventurers. They work hard for a few months, for example, ski instructors in the Alps, harvest workers in Australia, summer staff on Greek islands. And then they vanish. They vanish into freedom, traveling, exploring, creating, living wild until the next season comes. Their life is a rhythm of effort and release. Work to them is not a cage. Work is just the springboard into the next adventure. But freedom doesn't always look physical. Some choose the most radical path of all. Honesty without filters. Imagine never telling a social lie, never pretending, never smiling when you don't mean it. That is the path of those who practice radical honesty. It is brutal, it is messy, it can even be dangerous. But those who live this way say the same thing. Once you stop lying, you finally feel alive. Because freedom is not just where you live. It's whether you can look in the mirror and say, I'm not hiding anymore. And there are the polyglot travelers. Their weapon is not fists or boards, but words. They cross borders not by passport, but by their tongue. They learn Spanish in Colombia, Russian in Moscow, Japanese in Kyoto. For them, freedom means sleeping between cultures like a chameleon, always belonging, yet never being bound. Every new language opens not just doors, but entire worlds. So here you have that. Martial artists, the warriors, extreme nomads, seasonal workers, radical truth travelers, polyglot wanderers. These are the warriors of freedom. They show us that unconventional life is not always easy. Sometimes it demands your body. Sometimes it risks your safety. Sometimes it can cost you your friends. But the reward is a soul that cannot be caged. So guys, before we step into the final chapter of this journey, I want to invite you to go deeper. If you felt something awaken in you while listening to these stories, if you felt the pull towards freedom, authenticity, or truth, then this is just the beginning. On this channel, I create content to help you not only to think about freedom, but to start living freedom, to start breathing freedom, to being freedom. So if you want to support this mission, here are a few ways. You can subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next journey, and it's completely free. You can book a one-on-one therapy session with me if you're ready to break free from the inner blocks. I work with CBT and all the other great techniques that I came across on my studies. You can read my book, Mind Mastery, How to Overcome Mental Blocks and Unlock Your Potential. It's a roadmap for inner transformation. Or you can join Patreon if you want to support the work and gain access to exclusive insights. Or if you simply like to give a direct boost, you can always support through the PayPal tip jar. So, now let us step into the final realm of this odyssey, the builders of the new world. So, some people choose to wander, some choose to strip life down to its essence. Some people dance, some people fight, some just disappear. But there's another kind of unconventional life. Those who don't just escape the old world, they build new ones. The first are the intentional communities. Groups of people who say the rules out there don't work for us, so let's write our own. They buy land, build homes, grow food, and share resources. Some of these groups are spiritual, some are eco-focused, some are experimental societies that test new forms of living. And, as you can imagine, it is not always easy. Conflict happens, people leave, but still, intentional communities remind us that the future doesn't have to be inherited, it can be designed. Then you have the eco-spiritual movements, places like Auroville in India or Findhorn in Scotland. Thousands of people living together, not because of nationality, but because of religion. Not because of religion, but because of a shared vision, to live in harmony with nature and with each other. They are not perfect, but they are living proof that humans are capable of inventing ways of life beyond nations, beyond politics, beyond business as usual. And, of course, there came the radical entrepreneurs, not the ones chasing billion-dollar valuations in Silicon Valley, but the rebels who say, I will never be owned by a boss again. They create businesses out of passion, not obligation. A YouTube creator, a therapist who builds their own practice, a writer who self-publishes. They don't beg for permission. They invent their own economy of freedom. Every time someone says, you can't live like that, they prove that actually, yes, you can. Some of them are even family nomads. Parents who take their kids on the road, homeschooling them in vans, sailboats, or across continents. These children grow up learning not just math and history, but languages, cultures, adaptability, resilience. The world becomes their classroom. And though society often looks at them with suspicion, years later those kids grow into adults who know that life was never meant to be confined to a single neighborhood. And the last group, the external experimenters. These are the ones who never stay still, who reinvent themselves every 5 years, every 2 years, sometimes every season. Today they are writers, tomorrow they are healers, next year builders of schools or travelers of jungles. They are proof that identity itself can be fluid, that we don't need to cling to one definition of ourselves forever. To them, freedom is not a destination. Freedom is the experiment itself. And this, my friends, brings us to the end of our journey. We have walked through the worlds of the nomads, the minimalists, the mystics, the artists, the warriors, the builders. 30 ways of life, 30 ways people around the world have chosen to step off the beaten path. But the point is not to copy them. The point is to realize you have permission to choose. You have permission to create a life that looks nothing like your neighbor's. You have the permission to disappoint expectations, to reject the script, to write your own script. As I told you, I began my life as a lawyer. I stepped into politics. I walked the path of therapy, of mysticism, of inner searching, and now I'm focused on inner freedom because I know that through inner freedom, everything else comes. And each time I discovered that freedom was not in status, not in approval, not in comfort. Freedom begins with the moment you dare to live differently. So, maybe your path is a van life, maybe it's art, maybe it's silence, or maybe it's something no one has ever named before. But whatever door you walk through, remember this. The only unconventional life is the one you truly choose. And when you live from that truth, not even the world itself can cage you. And you will become free.